All right, well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here. And for those of you watching at home, we appreciate you tuning in. Our intention this afternoon in this conference is to try to give you as much of a comprehensive understanding of the storm that we're about to face here and the people behind me and around me and all of the work that the city is doing to help you deal with this storm. So you should know that we're closely monitoring a very significant weather system that is expected to impact Oahu over the coming days. Forecasters are telling us that this could be a prolonged storm event, as much as 5 days, bringing periods of heavy rain, thunderstorms, flash flooding, and strong winds all across our island. Some areas could see significant, very significant rainfall totals, possibly up to 30 inches over the next 5 days. I'll say that again, possibly 30 inches over the next 5 days, which means flooding could develop quickly, especially in low-lying areas, along streams, and on roadways. Our message to the public today is simple. Take this storm seriously and prepare now. We really want to stress that. You know, we know that we've had false alarms in the past, but the radar system and what we're looking at is very real, and it's upon us. Please take this storm very seriously. City departments and our first responder agencies have been preparing for several days. Crews are out across the island right now, clearing storm drains, inspecting infrastructure, staging equipment, and coordinating closely with our partners at the state and federal level. Our priority is the safety of our residents and our visitors. So we're asking the public to stay informed, really important. Avoid unnecessary travel during heavy weather, and never attempt to drive through flooded roadways. Never attempt to drive through flooded roadways. Conditions can change quickly during storms like this. Our teams are prepared and working around the clock, but we need everyone in our community to do their part and stay alert and stay informed. We will continue providing regular updates as the situation develops. So at this time, you're going to hear from some great people up here. I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Randy Collins, Director of the City and County of Honolulu's Department of Emergency Management, who will provide more detailed information about the storm and what residents should expect in the coming days. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the mayor indicated, we do have a very significant storm that we want everyone to take seriously. As he mentioned, we're really concerned about the amount of rain that is expected to fall, up to 30 inches in some places. We're very concerned about the damaging wind that could happen. We're very concerned about the flash flooding that will happen and the buildup in the rivers and streams. And we've been focusing on mitigating those concerns over the past several days, as the mayor mentioned. We're also very concerned about the longevity of this particular storm. As the mayor mentioned, it's a long storm. It's going through next weekend, and we don't even know what happens after that. So we're very concerned about this, and we want everyone to take the appropriate preparedness precautions. I want you to know that the City and County of Honolulu, we're doing our part. We're working in overtime, working even into last weekend, and preparing for what we need to do to make sure that we can provide the services, the life-saving services for all of you. And so what we want out of you is, in return, is for you to also take appropriate measures. So take preparedness actions today. Make sure you know your plans. Make sure you have fuel in your vehicles. Make sure that you have those supplies built up. Make sure that you sign up to H&L Alert. hnlalert.gov, and sign up for us to be able to give you direct notifications from the Emergency Operations Center. We also have taken efforts at the city and county to cancel a lot of our special events. So we want you to verify those special events before you do anything, but actually we're really encouraging everyone to stay home. We're canceling events. We would like for you to cancel events. Stay home, stay off the streets, stay safe. What we're also doing at the Department of Emergency Management is activating our Emergency Management Reserve Corps. These are disaster preparedness reservists who volunteer their time to come out and support us in the field and support our police and fire and EMS responders as well. So we're taking every step that we can to activate every resource that we can to make sure that we have resources in place to protect you and to ensure your safety. We're also coordinating very closely with our various partners, especially those that deal with sheltering. We're overwhelmingly concerned with our houseless population. And this much amount of rain, amount of thunderstorms, and the significance to this storm and the length of this storm means that they're extremely at risk. So we have been working with our partners to get out to the areas where we know the houseless are and work with them to make sure that we're providing a safe place for them to go to and to get out of the storm's path. We're also coordinating very closely with our state partners. We've had several calls with HIEMA, and I really do appreciate Governor Green's support in everything that we've done thus far. He has created an emergency proclamation for the state. I'm also very appreciative of Mayor Blangiardi and creating the emergency proclamation for the city and county of Honolulu. Obviously, that shows the significance of this storm. And we don't, make those proclamations every day. And so when we make those proclamations, it's obviously very significant. With that, I want to turn it over to Laura Thielen with Partners in Care to talk about what our outreach is to our houseless population.
Thank you, Dr. Collins. My name is Laura Thielen. I'm with Partners in Care, which is a nonprofit organization, and we work side by side with our city counterparts to make sure that those who are experiencing homelessness, especially during these types of disasters, are safely housed and or sheltered during this time. Outreach workers and providers started late last week in canvassing the entire island to make sure that anyone who was willing to go into shelter had that opportunity. That opportunity is still available. Over the next 24 hours, we really want to use our current resources that are available in the different shelters, open to those who are ready to go into shelter, even if it's only for the length of this storm. For the next 24 hours, we encourage people to give Partners in Care a call if they want to access shelter. There's a lot of people trying to find shelter, and we want to make sure that everyone gets placed as quickly as possible and as early as possible. For those who want to reach out to us, you can contact us at 808-859-3610 or go to our website at www.partnersincareoahu.org. We are very concerned with folks who are in low-lying areas, and we encourage you, if you are friends with anybody who is in the unhoused population or have any kind of relationship with them, if you can go out and talk with them, let them know what's happening over the next 5 days, and more importantly, get them to contact us so that we can work with others in our programs to make sure that they are housed. We are anticipating that we will open some shelters, but that will be later this week. So right now we have open spots at several of our current emergency shelters across the island, and we encourage people to give us a call. With that, I will turn it over to Laura Thielen or Dr. Jim Ireland.
Thank you, Jim Ireland, Director of the Honolulu Emergency Services Department. And just to add to that, the core teams have been out all day today. They're going to be working overtime tonight and for the next week to engage and assist in our partners in the nonprofit sector to engage the homeless and also provide transportation to the various available shelters. What we found in the last storm, a week or two ago, is that some of the homeless and the houseless didn't take us up on our offers initially, but did so or were more interested once the storm hit. So we're trying to avoid that, but if that is the case again with this storm, we will continue to move people from harm's way into existing shelter space or newly opened shelters as this evolves. So the core teams are going to be very busy. As a matter of fact, after this press conference here, I'm headed out to meet with the teams who are out in Pearl City as we speak and have found at least some people in distress, or at least one person in distress that we need to get taken care of. So CORE is going to be working really hard this week. From the EMS standpoint, we're fully staffed in EMS. I've authorized overtime as needed to open up additional ambulances needed. The 18-passenger ambulance bus has been activated tonight and will be through this weekend. That can be used not only to transport patients, but can also be used for evacuation for homeless or people in other low-lying areas that warrant that service. So they're available. What I saw, or what we saw in the storm from 2 weeks ago, is because there were widespread power losses, we found people were somewhat confused what to do at intersections that were out. When an intersection is out, you treat it as a four-way stop, but we did have at least a half a dozen or more motor vehicle collisions at intersections where the lights were out because folks didn't come to a complete stop or they didn't yield. So we do want to caution people once this storm is here, not only about their driving and again, stay home if possible, but also use of chainsaws in clearing debris at home. We've had some accidents with those in the past, and also falls from ladders, people trying to put up tarps and things like that. Falls is also a risk factor for injury that EMS has to go to. But we're prepared, and we're working closely with our partners at DEM, the Fire Department, Police Department, and Ocean Safety. And we work well with them on a daily basis in the work that we do, but it's times like this when we really come together and rise above to really care for the people of the city and county of Honolulu. That makes me the most proud. And in talking with the meetings we've had all day today with my partners here, I know we're ready for this storm. Thank you.
Aloha and good evening, everyone. I'm Chief Vanek of the Honolulu Police Department. As your police department, we want you to know that we are ready and actively preparing to serve and protect this community throughout the duration of this storm. Emergency plans are in place, and personnel and resources are being positioned so we can respond effectively in each of our police districts. You will likely see our officers in the community directing traffic, monitoring conditions, and closing roads when necessary. Please be mindful of our officers and follow any directions from first responders. For your safety and the safety of others, we encourage everyone to stay home as much as possible and stay off the roads. However, if you do need to be on the road, please remember the following safety tips, and you've heard a lot of these already, but I want to reiterate them. Do not attempt to drive through flowing or rising water. Floodwaters can rise very rapidly, and even 1 foot of moving water can sweep away a vehicle. Be aware of officers that are directing traffic, especially at intersections without power. If a traffic signal is out, treat the intersection as an always stop. Slow down. Wet roads increase stopping distance and reduce traction. Even if you need to drive below the posted speed limit, do so safely. If you have to drive, turn on your headlights so other drivers can see you, even in the daytime. Obey road closures. Barricades and warning signs are there for safety. Do not try to drive around them. Main thing, by working together as a community, we can make sure that we keep Oahu safe in the coming days. Thank you. Now I'd like to turn it over to Chief Samala of the Honolulu Fire Department.
Aloha and good evening. My name is Jason Samala. I'm the Deputy Fire Chief. I'm not going to go over everything that was said already. We support everything that was said. I want to leave you with some reminders, right? With the storm and rain, also comes an increase of fires and electrical hazards. You think about it, right? It can produce some long-term power outages. And the tendency is to use candles, and if you do so, please remember to make sure that they're at least 12 inches away from anything that can burn, and never leave them unattended. We recommend that you use battery-powered lights instead as an alternative. In addition to that, for those of you with generators, keep in mind to keep them at least 20 feet away from any kind of window or doorway. That's to prevent the carbon monoxide from entering the home and you suffering from those toxic hazards. In addition to that, never use outdoor grills, any propane grills or camp stoves within the building or within your home. Those are intended to be used outdoors, and leave them as such. Furthermore, I think the number one thing is, although the tendency and the desire may be to go and witness these waterfalls that are going to be produced by the rainfall, do not leave your homes. Do not go hiking. Do not attempt to approach them and get closer. Please heed the safety warnings that we've mentioned already so far. None of us want to respond to you and put ourselves in danger as well. So thank you, and turn it over to Laura.
Aloha kako. The park department is notifying everyone that our facilities will be closed beginning tomorrow until further notice. So that would include all gymnasiums, pools, outdoor fields, outdoor courts. We did close Eva Mahiko Gymnasium today in order to move the Honu over to that location. Camping is going to be closed. Camping may be either 5-day camping beginning tomorrow or 3-day camping beginning Friday, but all camping will be closed through the entire weekend. And then our park staff are getting ready to open up, if necessary, 4 shelters on city park property. Manoa District Park for town, Kaneohe District Park for the windward side, Wahiwa District Park for the North Shore, and Asing Community Park for the Eva location. We are also working with the state because we understand the DOE will be opening up additional shelters, and so there will be some more comprehensive lists for shelters issued out to the general public. We encourage everybody to stay safe and to stay off the roads, and we look forward to your return after the storm passes. Mahalo.
Aloha. Good evening. My name is Warren Mamzuka. I am the Deputy Director for the Department of Facility Maintenance. Once we were made aware of the severe weather approaching us for this week, we began storm drain cleaning throughout the island of Oahu. And then we also began with authorization from the Department of Emergency Management to start opening stream mounts. And we started that out in Waianae, Pokai Bay Ditch 1 and 2, Ulehava Stream, and then we are currently clearing the stream out at Kaialepulu. We will continue with our crews with storm drain cleaning for the rest of this week, and also other stream outs that will be open in Kahala, Neo Valley, and also in Eva. We will also continue storm drain cleaning during the storm once the heavy rains occur. Thank you. Now.
Aloha, my name is Roger Morton. I'm the Director of the Department of Transportation Services. DTS is closely monitoring the weather and situation, and will be continuing to do that throughout this whole weekend. Our rainfall levels could be higher than what we've seen in many, many years. And so I just tell people that if you're going to be driving, to just drive with great caution. As Fire Chief mentioned, even a small amount of water can stall your car or can have it even float away. So be very mindful of that. We do expect that there could be debris in the roadway, and so we ask everybody to lower their speeds, to drive with aloha, and just be cautious of your surroundings. At this time, we're planning to continue our operations on the bus, Skyline, and Handy Van. We'll operate tomorrow as normal. We'll operate Thursday as normal, and they will be reactive to the situation. We continue to plan to operate, but be mindful that we may be called upon to provide supplemental service for evacuation and for other things, and so our service could be disrupted if we have an island-wide event. In the worst case, transit could be disrupted and suspended, but at this point, we're not planning for that. We just want the public to be aware that if our winds are too high and if there is flooding in areas, that transit service could be impacted for that. Our operators, maintenance, people are all ready to keep our vehicles going. They're experienced in this. They have a long history of working with floods, and so they're all mobilized and ready to go. If the city does activate widespread emergency shelters, we'll be there to provide transportation service, evacuation service, particularly for our houseless people, but for anybody that needs the service. For the public, the most important message is really if transit or driving is necessary, to allow extra time, and for all costs, avoid flooded roads. And finally, we ask everyone to drive with aloha, slow down, watch for standing water, and look out for one another. Mahalo, and play it safe. Thank you. Mayor, turn it back to you.
Thank you, Roger. She's not here right now, but earlier today I authorized Dita Holyfield, the Director of Enterprise Services, who'll be closing the zoo and the golf courses, just to state the obvious, in case anybody's wondering. I also want to say one other thing on shelters. We're going to stay ahead of this. So obviously we're very concerned about our homeless population, as Laura Thielen said so well. They're prepared to provide shelter for them. That's sort of an exclusive kind of shelter because of the needs that go on, and we'll also be providing shelters, as Laura said, in conjunction with the state but ourselves. By I think Thursday we'll be announcing shelters for the general public if people have the need to be dry. We're not going to wait. As I understand it, it starts probably by tomorrow. Thursday should be rough, but by Friday, Saturday, Sunday is what I've been briefed on would probably be the most. We want to be ahead of that. And so we will be announcing, and we're going to ask people to stay in touch as we evolve with the storm for these kinds of announcements. But our goal is to keep the public safe. I want to assure anybody that's out there, if you feel like your house is in jeopardy, there will be places for you to go. We're going to do the very best we can. Very proud of the people up here. We've been working on it now for several days. It's going to be nonstop from this point forward. All we ask for is the community, the public, everybody has to help us. You got to help us help you. Pay attention. Don't do foolish things. In torrential rains of this kind, even trying to drive is almost impossible just to see. So you want to stay away. And it's been said a couple of times here, don't be driving. For anybody who's ever watched those mainland flooding newscasts with people stuck in these cars and cars floating or whatever, that is very probable and very possible to happen here. Don't try it. Okay, with that, we'll open up to any questions. Yes, to anybody up here, just say who you want to ask. And
yes, thanks, Mayor. So we saw with the last storm that Holly, even the North Shore got hit really hard with those floods. Is there any certain areas or communities that you guys are focusing on for this round?
I'll bring up Randy because we've tasked him with that specific responsibility.
Well, unfortunately, the weather isn't cooperating with us. The most intense amount of rain, and in terms of volume, appears to be on the windward side. However, the leeward side is still expected, based on the graphics, to get up to 20 inches. However, that side doesn't handle the rain as well. So either way, pretty much the risk is entirely across Oahu. But I will tell you that at the Emergency Operations Center, we work very closely with our dam safety partners and the state to monitor all the different river gauges, and also with the National Weather Service to monitor all the river and stream gauges and monitor the dams. And so we have good instrumentation that tells us when things are getting full and when we need to take action and that sort of thing. So there's not any particular area on Oahu. We're monitoring the entire area, but as we get more information with the storm system moving in, we'll better be able to tell where those thunderstorms are and where those heavy amounts of rain are, and then that will give us our first clues of where the more significant impacts will be. Next question.
If someone does find themselves stranded in a vehicle for whatever reason, what should they do? What are best practices?
Stranded in a vehicle, I'm going to push to Chief Samala, who will be doing the rescues of the stranded vehicles, and ask him what the appropriate response out of the driver should be.
Yeah, great question. I think that the best course of action is basically to stay in the car. If you have a phone, call 911, obviously, and we'll get there, respond. We have a swift water team, which is our rescue company, and they'll execute a rescue.
Is there any areas where the water could be rising and someone could find themselves trapped in rising water? And what do they do in that situation?
Yeah, possibly, just find the highest ground, get it on top of your car, the roof of your car. I mean, if there's a tree nearby or anything nearby you can grab a hold of, I mean, I think that's your only option at that point. Would avoid jumping into a flowing water, as mentioned earlier, right? It's extremely powerful.
Should they be rolling down windows or anything like that at all?
Oh, okay. You mean if they're actually in the car, still trapped in the vehicle? That's a tough one. I think it's situational. I think you can remain in your vehicle as much as possible with your windows rolled up, but at a certain point, you're going to have to exit the vehicle, right? Especially as the water rises and starts covering the window. Right now, the pressure is not equalized, right? So it's going to be difficult to get out of the car at that point.
I want to emphasize calling 911. Most everybody has a cell phone.
Yeah.
First
Yeah.
thing, if that happens, that should be the first call they make.
Again, don't even attempt to cross any water, whether you're walking or driving. I mean, the prevention is the number one thing. But if you do find yourself in that, definitely call 911 first.
Got one for maybe Dr. Collins or Mayor, if you want to chime in. I know you brought this up briefly. It's just, there's been false alarms before. You don't want to be the boy who cried wolf. For those who might just be seeing the weather reports going, it's just a little rain, what would be your message to them? Who they haven't had problems in the past, this time seems a little bit different from how.
Well, I'll defer to Dr. Collins in a way, but I'll just offer the following. I spent 43 years in media. I spent a lot of nights in newsrooms looking at radar screens, okay? I've seen false alarms come and go. This storm is not a false alarm. It's very real, which is why we're doing what we're doing. There's a massive system that's coming here. I wish that wasn't true, but I can promise you, we want to, as I said this earlier, we want to be as prepared as we possibly can. I can't predict it, but it looks extremely real, and we don't want to sit there afterwards and say, you know, we didn't sell this through hard enough. We would not be doing what we're doing here and trying to alert the public if we thought this wasn't real. I said in my opening comment, this storm is very real, and I will tell you from my experience, knowing what I've looked at in the past, this is going to be a real storm to remember. Okay?
Yeah, I appreciate that question, especially with some of the other storms, and maybe the perception out there is that they haven't been as significant as we have said. But let me just caution that here on Oahu, here in Hawaii, we're very isolated and we're very vulnerable. And so we take the forecast seriously. It's the best weather information that money can buy. The National Weather Service is top-notch. Weather services anywhere don't always get it right, but our weather service is the best, and when they tell us what the severity is, and I'll tell you that they've also indicated that their forecast, they've indicated that their confidence is high, that we're going to see what they're saying we're going to see. So with confidence high, take it seriously. Just take it seriously. But that being said, I do want to caution, you know, tomorrow we're going to have a pretty bad day. And then on Thursday, there will be a little bit lull. It's still going to be rainy, wet, windy, everything else, but not as bad as Wednesday. But even Friday and Saturday will then be even worse. So don't think that we get to Thursday and you feel this lull and then you go out and think, oh, well, you know, the Weather Service got it wrong again or something like that. No. This storm is, you know, impacts have started somewhat today and will go through Sunday, and that's what we're tracking, and we wanted everyone to take the storm seriously through that time period and stay tuned for more information as we get more information from the Weather Service as the storm gets closer and we get better scientific information.
I have a quick question for Laura Thielen from Parks. Yeah, standing right next to each other.
There are two of us.
Yeah. You had mentioned that you're closing the park facilities over the coming days, and you mentioned like gymnasiums and stuff. Is it also the parks themselves, and the beach parks themselves that will be closed?
So as we all learned under COVID, the beaches, people have a constitutional right to access them, and people can traverse parks on their way to locations. So we will not be closing the parks themselves, but all the fields, so if you have a game or a practice scheduled for the fields will be closed. If you plan on playing at an outdoor court, the courts will be closed. If you have a game or a practice in a gymnasium, those will be closed. If you have a meeting or a class in a recreational building, all of those will be closed. Campsites are also closed. So the parks themselves, though, people can walk through them. But again, we recommend that people not do that. Parks are the location for a lot of very large trees. We do routine tree pruning, but in storms like this, there's a tremendous amount of weight in the collective water drops on the trees, so that you may have limbs fall, you may have trees blow over because they're vulnerable. So we don't think that parks are safe locations to be in the middle of a storm out in a field. We do have city arborists, and they will be there for tree clearing, but they will prioritize roadways so emergency vehicles can get through the roads. So they'll be traversing around the island to cut up trees that fall down in the roadways. It's best to stay out of the parks.
You know, Ben, I'm glad you asked that question because that just triggered. I think we're going to ask Kurt Lager to come up, our Director of Ocean Safety, and talk about the beaches because invariably the water's going to be, and people like to, so I want Kurt to come up and talk about it.
Thank you, Mayor. Kurt Lager, Chief of Ocean Safety Department. I'm going to echo what everyone else says. It's not a day to be at the beach. The weather is going to be bad. Some of the conditions that we're going to see at the beach could be very strong winds, as it was just talked about. And I want to point out that our lifeguards are going to stay in all the towers as much as possible. The rain will not stop us from being at the beach. However, if we get strong winds that are sustained about 40 miles per hour or above, we will have to shutter the towers, which means we put the flaps down. That's for our own employees' safety. But that does not mean that we are going off duty. Lifeguards are still available to respond to emergencies. And again, 911 is the best way to get any of the first responders to an emergency as fast as possible. Again, I'll just reiterate, we're going to see fast changing ocean conditions with the wind and the rain. The surf is going to come up on the South Shore because of the wind. And then all the streams, there'll be very fast water moving coming out of all the streams. When we see that amount of flow of water coming out of the streams, it also changes the contour of the beach. If you're standing too close to some of those streams or rivers where they're going in the ocean, the sand could slide out from under you and you can be swept out into the ocean. So it's just not good. It's not a good day to be at the beach. So we really encourage everyone to be at home.
And so when if the winds hit more than 40 miles an hour and you have to shutter the lifeguards in, does that mean the lifeguards stay within the towers, or does that mean they go to like trucks or something and row around?
They fall back to a vehicle or to a structure where they can still try to monitor the beach as best as we can. They just got to seek shelter. The towers are just not designed to handle that kind of wind.
I have a question for Laura Thielen from Partners in Care. How much shelter space or bed space is available for people experiencing homelessness, and what is the plan in case those shelter spaces fill up?
At this point, we've got probably about 25 to 30 spaces within shelters that already operate as emergency shelters. Those shelters are also willing to take in more people if possible, and then we will look towards other shelters to open specifically for those folks.
And which household population do you guys feel are more vulnerable? Are we talking about those who are staying on the beaches, those that are living under state and county bridges?
I think what we've done so far is we've actually matched up our outreach maps that actually geolocate where folks are. And we don't share that information with anyone, but we are able to layer on the flood zones on top of that with the help from Department of Emergency Management. So we are actually able to see some of the major encampments that are going to be affected in low-lying areas or in next to streams. So those are the people that we are most concerned about, people that are next to streams or in the drainage ditches. So that is what our outreach workers, all the outreach workers across the island have been working towards. Luckily, some of our folks that are experiencing homelessness have phones, so they are able to reach out if they need help. But we need to get them out of those drainage ditches and away from those flooding rivers and creeks as much as possible.
And are those shelters open to families or children and folks who have animals?
Yes, so we have multiple shelters, including the Civic Center out at Waianae. We have some shelters out at Barbers Point that are run by KWO, as well as a whole bunch of the IHS shelters across the island. All of those emergency shelter operators are ready and willing to take in people.
How many houseless folks have you folks made contact with, and how many are taking shelter?
It is very difficult to get folks to come into shelter. So on the long-term plan, what we want to do is move people directly into more permanent shelter and housing. That's always going to be our focus. But during this time when there is a significant event like this coming up, we are really encouraging people to go into shelter. We don't want to get to a point where we have to have HPD escort people out, but at the same time, the risk of loss of life is paramount. And so making sure that people are safe. For those who are unhoused and unsheltered, at night, there's a lot going on in the middle of the night when it's dark, and it's very difficult to get to shelter at that time. So the earlier we can get them to move, the better.
So would they be arrested if they don't take shelter?
We have not gotten to that point yet, and we hope that we don't have to. There's relationships with our outreach workers. There's also, HPD has great relationships with a lot of the unsheltered folks across the island. So, that trust has been built up. So we want to go with asking and encouraging, and that's what we're going to do for the time being. And there's approximately, at any given time, there can be 4,000 to 5,000 folks who are experiencing homelessness across the island. And we know that through all of our intakes that we do and all the outreach work that is done. So it's a large number, but they also work together, and they are their own support networks. So hopefully they are looking after their own neighbors, even if they're unsheltered.
A question for Jim Ireland, kind of along these lines. Jim, you had mentioned that you guys have like the 18-passenger van, I think, that you sometimes record, and you mentioned that you guys are activating it. What does it actually mean to activate it? Is it like it's sitting somewhere now and activating it means that now you can like take it out and drive it around?
So it's a ambulance bus. It's licensed as a basic life support ambulance. It can hold 18 people lying down flat. So if they're a patient, it can actually hold many more than that if they're sitting down. Generally, a person is on call that can respond from home to the bus and take it to an incident. But we're actually having people, at least one person with the bus, so they could go on a moment's notice. And we also may move it. We may move it to stage it. So in the heavy rain we had 2 weeks ago, which I'll note, one place in Kaneohe, Luluku, got 24 inches of rain, and we saw flooding across Likelike Highway and a lot of devastation in that neighborhood, and that's why the 30 inches predicted here is so concerning. And we were concerned, a few weeks ago about the dam levels and what was happening on the North Shore. And so we actually were on the verge of moving that bus, relocating it from the Aiea area up to the North Shore, and the rain stopped and we didn't have to do that. But by activated, to answer your question, is somebody's going to be with it, and that if we have to move it or stage it in a neighborhood, we will. The usual flooding we're used to when we get rain are things like the Waikane Stream, Waihole Stream, Kapa'akori Road, and there's some different places, Waialua area, there's some different places that famously flood, and they may flood again with this storm, but we potentially will see places that are going to flood that don't historically flood, that don't historically handle a lot of heavy rains, like the Waianae Coast, for instance. And so if we have to move that asset to Kapolei, for instance, and stand by, we'll do that. And we have other vehicles as well to move people. We have 4 core ambulances, and if we need to, we have 15 passenger vans in EMS and other SUVs that aren't licensed ambulances, but if we need to move people, we're going to have all hands on deck to come help. Thank you.
Any other questions? I said at the outset, our intention was to give you as comprehensive a look at this as we could possibly give you at this point. And as you heard today, we've already spent several days, if you will, in preparation doing certain things. But I want to speak on behalf of our first responders because you heard from the leadership here today. These are men and women who are trained for anything and everything. They bring a lifetime of work to this job. Nobody can actually predict what's going to happen with this storm. We can say with certainty we think we're going to get deluged with, if you will, with the amount of rainfall. But given all the variables that can possibly happen, even somebody stranded in a car, whatever, okay, I just want to assure the public that we stand ready, we will adjust accordingly, and we'll do everything we possibly can, as I said at the outset, to keep our public safe. I have tremendous confidence in our first responders. They are on watch. We are ready for this. I don't think people are going to get much sleep in the days ahead, but we will not disappoint the public. I'll go on record of saying that. Okay? Just help us. Help us help you. So with that, thank you.